Coming in at number 93 on our top 100 games of all time is Marvel vs. Capcom. This series, obviously, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The most recent one is my favorite. And I think you're a big fan of the Dreamcast game, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which had a whole slew. Like, I've never seen more characters in one fighting game before. Now, I was a huge fan of the Street Fighter series, in particular Super Street Fighter 2, which I played to death on the Super Nintendo. This I played on the Dreamcast. Now, the controller for the Dreamcast wasn't the best for fighting games. Worked okay for Soul Calibur, but for all other fighting games, it was grossly deficient. But still, this was the only game I'd ever played where you could have Psylocke versus She-Hulk versus Chun-Li.
That was the genius of this franchise. That has been the genius of this franchise, and long may it continue. It really kind of kicked off in '97 when they started to introduce Marvel with Street Fighter and created this whole versus category.
Mashup.
Yeah, brilliant on Capcom's part. And, you know, throwing Spider-Man and Wolverine and Hulk and Mr. Fantastic and all of these crazy characters into a game like this has just been phenomenal.
Well, that's always the game that we play as nerds, is like, could this guy beat this guy?
Totally.
Well, let's find out. Let's go to the game. And you know, the other thing that sticks in my mind from the 2000 Dreamcast version is that song that would play during the menu when you would choose your character. I believe the words are, I can't sing it because we'd have to pay rights for it.
Yeah.
Gonna take you on a ride. Gonna take you on a ride.
You can play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, by the way, on PlayStation 3 and Xbox, and I believe there's even a downloadable version of it for the iOS platforms.
Tons of versions of it. This series will not quit.
No, and I hope it never does. I can't wait to hear if there will be a Marvel vs. Capcom 4. But we have some classic reviews of Marvel vs. Capcom to take a look at right now.
Time for a little story, boys and girls. I remember getting Electronic Gaming Monthly a million years ago. I'd look at the screenshots for Street Fighter 2, which was coming to the Super Nintendo. Had no idea how this game worked. I didn't play it in the arcade. Everyone just kept saying how awesome it was. I went and I bought it, brought it home. It took me a couple of nights to figure out the half circle and the full circle.
That was an amazing game.
Amazing moment.
Super Nintendo.
Went through that again with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Everybody was raving about this game. I ran out and I bought it for the Dreamcast. I brought it home, switching characters in and out. I'd never seen anything like this before.
I couldn't appreciate it on the Dreamcast, but on the...
Well, the controller was not really a great fighting controller.
Well, I think that when we downloaded it, though, for Xbox Live...
we were excited.
I loved playing this game, and I loved jumping back in. You know, it's interesting to go back to 2 because it does feel like a progenitor. It feels very last gen. It feels very old.
It's not a young game anymore, for sure. This was the most robust offering of any fighting game to date. I don't know if it was the first...
With all the characters?
Yeah, with all the characters together. I mean, usually we're used to seeing 2 rows of, like, you know, there's Ryu and there's Ken. No, man, there's just like, there's like a map of people. Up until this point, we'd never seen such over-the-top combos before where all 3 characters could appear on screen simultaneously.
Yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds. I was so happy I was almost in tears.
Around the office, there's so many guys in the office who are editors and producers who are such huge fans of this game.
Yes.
When they heard that we even had a copy, it was great seeing how excited these guys were. It's just crazy everywhere.
Insanity.
There's like bazillion point combos. There's just fire everywhere and explosions.
It's like a comic book has come to life. When you play a game like Kingdom Hearts, you are really forcing to open up your imagination that these Square characters would coexist with these Disney characters. This kind of makes a little bit more sense just from a fiction kind of standpoint, and it also makes the Marvel characters relevant as video game characters, which they have been for a very long time, but also Capcom relevant as comic book characters or kind of super heroic type characters.
I just feel like the sense of deja vu that I felt going from the last Street Fighter to 4.
It exists again here, sure.
And it's really strong here.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I played that on the Dreamcast.
And we just looked at 2 as well.
And it looks great. You get a lot of comic book fan service, a lot of Capcom fan service.
That's what this is all about.
Boom. I get it. I understand.
Come on. Has there been a better looking fighting game than this? This has got to be the most beautiful fighting game.
I don't know. I think Street Fighter looks great.
It does, but it doesn't get as flashy as this. It doesn't get as crazy cool as this.
I don't really get impressed by the flash.
I do.
You saw my first wife.
I love it.
She was not flashy. Thank you, Capcom, and thank you, Marvel, and thank you, She-Hulk. Please return my calls. I would like to take you out on a date for the biggest steak you've ever seen, and congratulations to the Marvel vs. Capcom series. You are number 93 on our list.